Hello, aspirants. Today, we're diving into something really important, a recent major intervention by the Supreme Court in the National Chambal Sanctuary. Now look, this is way more than just another headline. Think of it as a powerhouse case study, just packed with concepts you absolutely need for your mains and, of course, for your interview. Just look at these words from the Supreme Court itself. They really set the stage, don't they? The court is being crystal clear here. It's saying that this constant destruction of our ecosystems for, short-term profits and greed, well, it just can't be tolerated, especially when it's combined with what the court calls administrative indifference. That's a huge statement about the breakdown of the rule of law.
All right, let's get into the specifics of the Supreme Court's warning. It's so important to grasp why this is such a big deal. You see, this isn't your everyday court proceeding. No, this is a landmark moment, really a huge development in India's environmental law. And for your preparation, you've got to know it inside out.
So what's the big move? The Supreme Court has actually threatened to send in paramilitary forces. I mean, think about that for a second. That's an absolutely extraordinary step. What it tells us is that there's been a complete or near complete breakdown of law and order across Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and UP. It's a clear signal that the existing state machinery just hasn't been able to handle the powerful sand mafia. And this whole situation brings up a really important legal term you need to know for GS Paper 2, suo motu cognizans. So what does that mean? Basically, the court jumped in on its own. It didn't wait for someone to file a case. That right there shows you just how serious this crisis is. It's a textbook example of judicial activism, the judiciary stepping up when it feels the executive has failed to do its job. Okay, so let's dig deeper into the crisis itself, because this is not just about, taking sand from a river. It's so much more complex. We're talking about a tangled web of environmental destruction, powerful organized crime, and a very real, very tragic human cost. This makes it a perfect multidimensional topic for a mains question. Now let's put on our environmental hat. This is pure GS3 material. The situation is, frankly, alarming. The National Chambal Sanctuary, it's the last real home for the critically endangered gharial. And what's happening? This illegal mining is just wiping out their nesting sites, poisoning the whole river ecosystem. We're literally pushing this incredible species, which is already hanging on by a thread, towards extinction. And then there's the human cost, which is just heartbreaking. The court's order doesn't mince words. It talks about the brutal murders of forest officials. People like Harikesh Gurjar, who was killed just crushed by a mining truck. This goes beyond simple crime. This is a direct attack on the state itself. And right there, you have a direct link between environmental issues and organized crime, a hot topic for internal security in GS3. What this reveals is a truly shocking imbalance of power. The court pretty much describes the state's position as one of helplessness. Picture this. On one side, you've got forest guards with, maybe basic equipment? And on the other, you have this heavily armed mafia with better weapons and vehicles. And the court points a finger directly at the cause, administrative apathy. Remember that phrase. It's a fantastic one to use in your answers. But the court didn't stop at just pointing out the problem. It went a step further and laid out a clear plan of action. These concrete measures are essentially a blueprint, and they're exactly the kind of practical, forward-looking solutions you should be talking about in your mains answers on governance. So, what are these directives? Well, first, notice the big focus on technology. We're talking high-res CCTVs, GPS tracking on all the vehicles, all for better monitoring. Then there's the call for joint patrol teams. This is huge because it tackles that classic problem of interstate coordination, which is always a challenge. And finally, the court says to immediately seize any vehicle or machine involved. The goal there? To hit the mafia where it hurts, in their wallet. Okay, let's pivot. This is the most important part for you. How do we take all of this and turn it into marks? How can you leverage this case study in your mains answers and, of course, in the interview? Have a look at this table. It maps everything out beautifully across your GS papers. For GS2, you've got a perfect case study on judicial activism and the problems of interstate coordination. For GS3, it's a direct hit on environmental crime and that whole organized crime connection. And don't forget GS4 FX. This is a fantastic example to use when you're writing about administrative apathy and what happens when the rule of law breaks down. So, keeping all that in mind, imagine you get a mains question like this. How would you tackle it? Your structure should be clear.
Start with the challenges. We've talked about them. The nexus, the apathy, the lack of resources. Then move to the solutions. And here, you can directly use the Supreme Court's directives as your framework: technology, cooperation, and tough enforcement.
Now for the interview. They love to throw you a situation. What if they ask you this? Imagine you're the DM of a district like Morena. What are you going to do? A great answer here isn't just theoretical. It's practical. You talk about calling an immediate meeting with the police and force department, using district funds to get that tech installed, getting the local community involved, and crucially, doing something to boost the morale of your officers on the ground.
So, to wrap this up, let's just boil it down to the key takeaways. These are the golden nuggets for your answers. Make sure you talk about judicial activism as a response to inaction. Mention the nexus between mining, crime, and corruption. Highlight how technology is a game changer in governance. Stress the need for states to work together. And finally, frame it as this big battle: rule of law versus administrative apathy. Using these specific terms will really make your answers stand out.
And we'll leave you with one final thought to ponder. Something you might even explore in an essay. The Supreme Court stepping in is crucial, no doubt. But is it a sustainable, long-term fix for such a deep-rooted problem? Or does the real, lasting solution have to come from major reforms within our administration and police forces? Keep wrestling with these big questions. All the best with your preparation.